The motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
I call the Honourable Mary Ann Street.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to respond to the speech of the member who just sat down, who is the sponsor of this bill, Mr. Kanwaljit Bakshi. Mr. Bakshi was doing all right until he decided to lay into us. I was going to be quite gentle with him about this bill, but I'm sorry, the gloves are off now, Mr. Bakshi. Really and truly, this is it. This is it. Not only is it a waste of Parliament's time being taken in this form, but it is even a waste of paper, because if one has a look at the commentary on this bill, Mr. Speaker, it says that the commentary from the Select Committee on which I served, and which at that time and reported back in 2010, the commentary says that we recommend deleting Clause 3, which states the purpose. We recommend deleting Clause 4, which provides that the Act binds the Crown. And Clause 5, which would repeal the Military Manoeuvres Act, would be spent immediately after the Military Manoeuvres Act Repeal Act as there are no other operative provisions in the bill, there would then be nothing in the Act for Clause 4 to act upon. Clause 4 is then redundant. So that even this little gesture here, Mr. Speaker, is far too much. This is a ridiculous way of occupying members' bills' time, quite frankly, and the only reason that this appeared in the ballot was in order for the National Party to have something in the ballot to try to prevent Labour and Greens bills in particular from being drawn. That is not the appropriate process, Mr. Bakshi, for this piece of legislation. This is not the appropriate mechanism. That could be done perfectly easily through a statutes amendment bill. So, Mr. Speaker, we're not going to vote against this, but I will not let that member be used by his colleagues as cannon fodder or lobby fodder in this House. They need to treat that member with more respect and stop giving him ridiculous jobs to do, which are no credit to him and no credit to his caucus. So I think that party needs to think again about just how they treat that member. Mr. Speaker, this bill, for the sake of the record, simply repeals an old provision that was enacted, I think, in about 1915 at the time of World War I, and it allowed the authorities to take land, seize land, for the purpose of performing military manoeuvres, so that the army could practice somewhere. And that provision, as Mr. Bakshi said that he understood, well, he understands it because that's what the Defence Department, Defence Ministry understands. To the best of the Defence Force's knowledge, in fact, the Act has not been used for at least 50 years. And I think times have changed. The bill clearly has no purpose any further. It should not ever be enacted, should never, in this time and this day and age, should ever be acted upon. So it is not the kind of thing that remains relevant to the circumstances of New Zealand these days, but nor is that an appropriate way to bring this matter to the attention of the House. A statutes amendment bill, any kind of omnibus bill that wanted to repeal laws that have long since passed their use-by date, could have been done at the end of the last term. In fact, I remember we did do a statutes amendment bill that had omnibus provisions in it, and that is the way to do it. Mop up all the little bits and pieces of legislation that are no longer necessary, no longer serve any useful purpose, and ought to be repealed, and get rid of them in one fell swoop. But no, the National Party has obviously decided to trawl through any omnibus legislation they've got sitting around and think, gosh, how can we clog the ballot process by taking out as many chances, or multiplying the chances of defeating Labor and Green members' bills. So, Mr. Speaker, really, this doesn't deserve any more time in discussion. It should go. We'll vote for it to go. We just object profoundly to this process and to the way that that member is treated by his own colleagues.
I call the honourable member John Hayes.